All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp Shapiro, so glad you could join us. You know, yesterday in Las Vegas, it was Mountain West Conference Basketball Media Day. That means all the coaches and the top, 2 or 3 players from each team come into Vegas to speak to the media. It's amazing how the college basketball season's right around the corner, and a very exciting time for UNLV basketball because it's the new era of TJ Otzelberger, the new head coach at UNLV. I tell you, he's done a hell of a job recruiting. And the guy we have with us on the line right now, I've been wanting to get him on for a while. His name is David Jenkins Jr. And according to Jeff Goodman, who is a great resource for college basketball, he says that this kid right here is the second best transfer in the country that UNLV got. Also played for TJ. So David Jenkins Jr. joining us now on the line. David, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Oh, no problem, my man.
I appreciate you coming on. So I guess the first question I would ask you is, what made you decide to transfer and come here and play for UNLV? I would imagine TJ Otzelberger had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I get that question a lot. So when I first put my name in the portal, I got a lot of, interest from different schools around the country, a lot of the big name schools that we know of. But I mean, ultimately, like I preach to a lot of people, I think the relationship part in this whole situation is everything. So the fact that I could believe in TJ and believe in everything that he told me from the beginning that he was going to do for me, the opportunities that he presented to me and that he carried out, I felt like meant everything to me, And sometimes when in the recruiting process, certain coaches will say certain things that, just say certain things to you that you want to hear to get you to that school.
Right.
Because, that's part of recruiting overall. So, but sometimes, every coach doesn't always carry out exactly what they say that they're going to do for you. And I feel like TJ told me exactly what he's going to do for me. He carried it out. So why wouldn't I stick with someone who gave me the opportunity in the first place? Because out of high school, I wasn't recruited at a high level at all. And TJ gambled on me, and he took the opportunity. He gave me the chance to be able to show my skills at the highest level possible. And I just feel like for someone who believes in me since day one when no one else did, I wanted to stick with him.
And you mentioned some big schools being after you. You're actually, you're not, you're telling the truth there to our listeners who don't know. You're actually from Tacoma, Washington, and Gonzaga, a very big program, was after you very, very hard. It's a pretty big deal that you decided to go to UNLV over Gonzaga.
Yes. Gonzaga is basically home, just a few hours from my house, being in Spokane, Washington. Another school that was fairly close was the University of Oregon, just another few hours from my house as well. Obviously, those are very high-level programs, and that sparked my interest as soon as they called me. It was funny because I was telling TJ the other day, I said, man, I was, really close to going to one of those schools, man, because, I know Gonzaga went to the NCAA tournament 22 years in a row, and you talk about trying to make your dreams come true. That's one stepping stone. You talk about the University of Oregon and all the opportunities that they present to all their student athletes. So, obviously those two programs right there and all the other programs that was recruiting me as well just have a lot of things about them that attracted me as well. But at the end of the day, I just put everything in perspective and just came to realization, but you know what? I don't really know what I'm getting myself into if I go to those schools. It's almost like going to the unknown. I never know what would have happened if I actually went. But I know exactly what I'm getting myself into when I came to you.
Sure. It sounds like TJ's been very loyal to you, and now you're being very loyal to him. So I want to talk to you a little bit about practice. Obviously, the public is not allowed to watch you guys practice. We all know that you're not eligible this year. You're going to have to sit out this year and then play next year. But you're still able to practice with the team and be around the team. So can you tell me a little bit about how practice has gone so far? Tell me a little bit about this team, and what do you think this team can do, and what damage can they do in the Mountain West Conference this year?
We have like almost a whole new team. So really just guys getting to know each other, filling out each other's game is something that we've been emphasizing in practice. We have a lot of leaders on the court, I feel like, but practice is going well. We're being a real disciplined team. We're learning how to pay attention to the small details because we know at the end of the day the little details may not be something now, but when we get into postseason, those things are really going to matter. Be the decision in the game. Towards the end of the season. But really, we got a whole bunch of guys who actually want to work and who actually want to be successful. I felt like one thing that this program was kind of lacking in the previous years was just discipline. Like, they weren't lacking when it came to talent and how athletic their guys were.
I would agree with that.
Of those guys.
Sure.
I just feel like the discipline thing wasn't something that was emphasized in this program. And TJ, as soon as he got here, emphasized.
You're so right. You are so right about that, and that's coaching. Well, let's call it for what it is. That's coaching. If you're just joining us, we're speaking with David Jenkins Jr., second top transfer, will be eligible to play at UNLV next year. So what do you – I know this might be a hard question for you to answer. I know it's going to suck that you're going to have to sit out this year, but you have to be looking forward to the fact that you're going to be in the backcourt most likely with Amari Hardy. And a lot of people are saying that you guys are going to have the best 1-2 punch in the Mountain West Conference and could be one of the best backcourts in the country. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think me and Amari really have we have a lot of similarities in our games, but we also have a lot of differences. Amari is really strong, driving to the hole and creating contact and being able to finish down there with a lot of big guys. And he's good at getting fouled and getting to the line. And I feel like that compliments me because if you think about it, if you got guys that are trying to so key in on him going to the hole so much and they're just trying to help, then it's an easy kick out for me, which, the strongest part of my game is shooting. So I feel like we complement each other in a lot of ways. Amari is really a really great player, and he plays really hard, and he's very competitive, just like me as well. So, we go about the game in a lot of similar ways when it comes to, killer mentality and how we want to go about it. So I feel like when you got two guys like that, at the end of the day, in the backcourt, I just feel like it's almost an unstoppable type deal. So,
yeah.
And another really good thing about me and him as well is we're really good together off the court as well. We hang out a lot. We feel each other's personalities a lot. We have a lot of similarities in that way as well. So I feel like things that you can do off the court together is only going to translate to on the court as well.
That's nice to hear because, as you know, chemistry is so important and friendships on and off the court are so important. Okay, let's talk a little bit about T.J. Otzelberger. Obviously, you know him better than anybody in Las Vegas, any member of the media that thinks they know him. But based on the information that I've gotten from people, he runs this great free-flowing offense, a run-and-gun type offense, even though he did say he's probably not going to do a lot of pressing this year because of the new rules in college basketball, that hand-checking and all that other stuff. However, the one question that I have is the defense. When you look at his defense over at South Dakota State, it wasn't I guess above average, I guess you could say, but the offense was so good and you guys had so many great scores, you were able to get away with it, if that, for lack of a better term. That's the one concern that I look at, David, and the reason why I say that is because the Mountain West Conference, as you know, is a very physical conference. San Diego States of the world, the Fresno States of the world, these are the teams that succeed in this conference because they're so good defensively. So my question to you is that a concern? Do you think that's an accurate assessment of Coach T.J. Otzelberger?
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that, and I say this the most truthful way to say it. All we do in practice is defense. We're such a gritty team. Like, as you mentioned, at South Dakota State, we were more of an offensive team. We were about the second most offensive efficiency team in the country, right behind Gonzaga, and that was a real emphasis for us, was to be a really good offensive team. Now this year we're going to be a really good defensive team. That's all we do every day throughout practice. We go for about 2.5 hours, and about 2 hours of that is straight defense.
Wow.
The offensive part for TJ almost comes naturally, so it won't be that hard for him to coach that. Which is why we're doing so much, just honestly straight defense, because we want to get the concept to everybody that we need to emphasize, taking away 3-point shots and taking away drives and all that good stuff, because as you mentioned, this conference is a really gritty conference. So to be able to play defense at the highest level is going to be really essential in this conference. So that's one thing TJ's been emphasizing. A lot of our coaches as well. We have a lot of our assistant coaches have really good defensive backgrounds as well. So the fact that they got that combined with TJ wanting to make sure that we're a great defensive team to be able to guard a lot of these high-level programs in this conference is something that we really are making key for this program.
And just important to note, you mentioned the assistant coaches. I'm friendly at least, with Kevin Kruger. I've played golf with him before. Of course, the son of Lon Kruger. Kevin was a great player here, played his senior year at UNLV. They got to a Sweet 16. So UNLV very lucky to have Kevin Kruger on the sidelines. Go ahead, JD.
So at South Dakota State, you played with a player named Mike Daum, and he averaged about 25 a game for a couple of years. He was a dominant scorer. Do you see anybody, you've seen the practices, obviously, do you see anybody that can emerge as a Mike Daum type of player? And talk to me about Donnie Tillman. Donnie Tillman's a very, very athletic transfer from the University of Utah. How is he progressing?
Yeah, just on the Mike Daum part, to be completely honest, I don't see a lot of guys like that in college basketball, at all. kind of like a one of a kind, to be honest. He's like a 6'10", man. He's 6'9", 6'10", who can shoot like a really skilled guard. And his touch is like better than anybody I've seen. So I mean, Mike Dom is like one of the best pound for pound scorers I think I've ever even played with in my whole entire life. So I don't think we necessarily have a guy like Mike Dom when it comes to scoring on the team. But we have a guy who I think who like is really good on defense as well as Mbake Young. He's a really good defensive presence in the floor, which really makes a difference, even compared to Mike scoring. Just as much as Mike scored, he made a difference on the court. I think Mbake can do the same thing on the defensive end. And when we talk about Donnie Tillman, I mean he's just an athletic specimen. He's hungry to want to be successful. And one thing I really like about Donnie is he has the same mentality he has on offense, he has on defense as well. He wants to be successful on both ends of the ball. And I feel like when you got a guy who had a mentality like that, I mean, it's ultimate success individually and for the team as well.
Yeah.
And his energy in practice rubs on off a lot of guys because, I mean, let's be honest, most guys in college basketball are just worried about their offense.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he's worried about both, it's feeding on the whole team. And then you've got a group of guys who want to be successful on the offensive defensive end. And I feel like once we get to that point to where everybody's like that and what we are striving for, then we're going to be a really good team.
So, David, as we said earlier, you grew up in Tacoma, Washington. I lived in Seattle briefly, and then you play basketball at South Dakota State. Let's be honest, you're not at South Dakota anymore. You're not in Tacoma anymore. You're in Las Vegas. So I got to ask you,
right.
This is a fun place, right? You got USA basketball here. I know LeBron James has trained right over there. I would imagine you've met some celebrities. This is the entertainment capital of the world. I know you're not allowed to gamble and drink and do all that stuff, but I have to ask you, I mean, what are your favorite spots? What do you think about Las Vegas? This is a really exciting place to live. It's not South Dakota, with all due respect. What do you make of living here, David?
I mean, you said it best, man. It's not South Dakota. So, I mean, honestly, in the beginning, adjusting was kind of hard for me because I'm one of those guys who, just like I mentioned in the beginning, I'm a very loyal person, and I got accustomed to South Dakota, even though it's really small. I embrace the family feel, how small it is, because in South Dakota, like, my school was the main attraction compared to Las Vegas, to where you got all type of attractions. It's not just UNLV. You got Strip, and you got all type of different things. So, I mean, in the beginning, adjusting was hard, but I mean, as a few months went in, I mean, you got the Summer League coming in, and you got the USA basketball coming in. Then it almost took my mind. I use it all as motivation because, you mentioned LeBron James. I got to actually meet LeBron. He was in our weight room working out. I was just sitting there watching him, got to meet him. That was just an eye-opener.
What do you say to him? Can I ask you, David, what do you say to him, and what does he say to you? How does that interaction work?
Man, at first, when I first walked up to him, I didn't know what to say. I was kind of speechless for a minute. I'm usually not starstruck, but he's my favorite player, and he's been for a while. But I remember we have a mutual friend, Isaiah Thomas. He's from Tacoma, Washington as well.
Sure,
yeah. I know they play on the same team together, so I immediately brought Isaiah Thomas up, so he kind of had a feel for where I was from and, kind of who I was.
That's a good icebreaker. Good idea.
Yeah. I thought it was a small thing to do, so, I mean, a smart thing. So I immediately brought him up. He was like, oh, okay, you're from Tacoma, this and this and that. He said, you guys got a lot of good players out there, because he also knew Avery Bradley as well, who now plays for the Los Angeles Lakers. Because Avery Bradley's also from Tacoma as well. So I immediately said that, and we got to just kind of feel each other out a little bit. He asked me, I play for UNLV, all that good stuff. So, I mean, just a small little talk real quick, and I got a picture with him as well, so that made my day. And I also got to meet a lot of the, high-level superstar players as well. So I feel like going to UNLV it's almost a motivational thing as well, because you get to see some of these NBA players coming in every single day, working out. It almost opens your eyes to want you to be able to push yourself even more to get to that next level. And honestly, just in Vegas, or embracing Vegas as a whole, I told TJ when I first committed here that another big reason why I wanted to come to UNLV, because Vegas, I feel like at any state in the whole country, it gives you the opportunity. It's the best place to network yourself, and it's the best place
that's
for when it comes to
100% true.
100%, and I feel like, basketball is only for a short time. So I wanted to make sure I build great relationships here and network myself to the highest possibility and be able to market myself as well, because I want to be able to open up certain gates for myself that after basketball as well.
So if our listeners that don't know, you're about 6'2", you go to about 200 pounds. You actually shot 42% from three last year, which was, I believe it was one of the tops in the country. You also, you made several hundred three-pointers last year, David?
Yeah, I made close to 130, not to toot my own horn or nothing, but I shot 45% from three.
45% from three. Yeah, you should too, Jordan. So for our listeners who haven't seen you play, who does your game translate to, we'll say, at the NBA level?
Oh, man. I don't want to say nothing crazy. I'll just say some things that TJ's told me. He said a Fred VanVleet.
Oh, sure.
I can see that.
Yep. He said a Fred VanVleet. I'm trying to think who else he had told me before. Well, that was the main one he said. He just said because, he's a winner at the end of the day, and he has a mature mentality.
Yeah.
He played at Wichita State. He's a winner, and he's hungry for success.
Mm-hmm.
He makes the right play. He can shoot and he can score.
Gotcha.
And I feel like at the next level, if I'm being realistic, I'm not going to walk in and be one of those guys who's like James Harden walking in. So,
gotcha.
I want to make sure that I'm being realistic with myself, and I want to compare to myself to a whole. You know what? Okay, he's a great role guy. He's a great role guy, and he's filling in a role. And then, as years to come, then he could fill into that superstar role in the NBA as well. So I want to make sure I'm being realistic with myself and comparing myself and trying to imitate someone like that.
45% at the three-point line. I want to mention that again because you're shooting at the three-point line at the college level almost as well as some of these guys in the NBA shoot at the free throw line. I won't mention any names. DeAndre Jordan, Shaq. Anyway, all right. Well, listen, David, UNLV is very lucky to have you here. You're extremely intelligent, and you're a great player, and you're loyal. And I think those are three things that every university wants. Doesn't matter what sport you're playing. I'm rooting for TJ Otzelberger. He's been great to us on this show, and we cannot wait for this season to start. I know it's going to be tough for you to be sitting there on the sidelines, but your time is coming next year. Thank you so much for joining us, David, and we hope we can have you on again sometime soon.
No, thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys giving me the golden opportunity to be able to speak to you guys. And anytime you guys need me back on, I'll be here.
Love it. I would love to, David. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks
we
a lot,
appreciate
David.
it.
Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too. There you go. I'm excited for this kid and for the university to have him here because I think David Jenkins is going to have a hell of a year next year.
I like the way he handled himself in that interview. He's great. Very well. He mentioned loyalty. Going from Tacoma, Washington, as an under-recruited player, going to South Dakota State, averaging 19, 20 a game, hitting 45% of your three-pointers, getting the opportunity to go back to Gonzaga or Oregon, and choosing to go to UNLV with your coach, TJ Otzelberger. I mean, that is one of the most loyal things you can do.
I also want to thank a friend of the show and a friend of mine who happens to be a UNLV booster. His name is Frank Carbone. And Frank helped facilitate us in getting David on, so we appreciate Frank for doing that.
Thanks a lot, Frank.
And I'm really excited for this upcoming season. TJ Otzelberger, like I've said about Tony Sanchez, now completely different scenarios in a way, because I think Sanchez, sadly, will probably be on his way out this year. TJ just got here. But the reason why I bring up Sanchez, because these are two guys that I think are easy to root for. They seem to be really good guys. I know Sanchez a little more than I know TJ, but from the interactions I've had with TJ and the coaching staff, they've been great to us, and I'm really looking forward to this basketball season. Yes, David Jenkins will not be out there, but I find it very interesting and perceptive of what David Jenkins says, because I didn't ask him about UNLV prior to this year.
Right.
I didn't ask him about Marvin Menzies.
But he knew about it.
But he's the one who brought up lack of discipline. Now, what is lack of discipline? I said the same thing under Dave Rice. When you have somebody that takes a 35-foot contested jumper and he's your 4 or 5 guy, you have to have discipline. You have to sit their ass on the bench. You have to chew them out a little bit. We haven't really had a coach like that. And I'm not saying that TJ Otzelberger is a screamer, but I do think that there will be accountability. At least I hope so. And that is a difference.
Under Lon Kruger, there was a ton of accountability.
Because players respected him.
Under the last coach, Marvin Menzies, you had situations where he would actually throw his players under the bus.
Yeah.
I don't believe that TJ Otzelberger will. I don't think he'll make excuses for his losses. I think that he'll take the blame for him. And that's a huge deal.
But you have to have accountability not just after the game. You have to have accountability and discipline during the basketball game. So I'll be very interested to see how that progresses. I like what I'm hearing so far. TJ has done a great job getting out in the community to start off. That's something Menzies did not do. Dave Rice did a little bit of that. Kruger was fantastic at that. I'll also be interested to see if the effort is made to get some of these former UNLV players to be around the program again. I think that's also important.
And you know what? David brought up a good point. He said that in South Dakota State, his show was the show. They were the only thing in town.
Right.
In Vegas, you are
no.
I mean, you're in competition for the casual sports fans' viewership, for their attention.
JD, last night, regular season game against a good team. Yeah, it was the Nashville Predators. I think there was like 19,000 people there last night. Sellout crowd again.
And they lost 5-2.
Yeah, they lost. But the point I'm trying to make is that you're right. There are so many other options in this town. I like a city with options. Boy, Las Vegas always had options when it came to food. They always had options when it came to entertainment. Didn't always have the options when it came to sports. Now we're getting the NFL. We're probably going to get the NBA and Major League Baseball.
In a big way.
We have a very, very good NHL hockey team. We have a professional basketball team in the Las Vegas Aces. It's just a matter of time before the NBA gets here. We have a soccer team, and we have UNLV. So there are options.
And if you're in Summerlin, it's not easy to get to UNLV. It's a 35, 40-minute drive, and a lot of people live in Summerlin. Mm-hmm. There's a large density of population out there, and so it's hard to get them. They're not going to travel down to watch UNLV at home in a game where they lose by 25 points in a non-competitive game. Mm-hmm. But I think T.J. Ottsberger's teams will score points by default. But the fact that they're focusing on defense is absolutely massive. And I agree, John can be a difference maker defensively. And I know Donnie Tillman is probably a top 5 athlete right now in the conference just stepping in. He's that good of an athlete.
I believe they have a good enough roster to compete in the Mountain West. Utah State is by far the best team in the Mountain State.
I really worry about Mitru Long. I worry about their one.
Yeah. Well, what I will say is that the Mountain West Conference is not going to be very good this year. I think it's Utah State and everyone else looking. I mean, Nevada Reno, I know they just hired Steve Alford. They're not going to be a very good basketball team.
They got Lindsey Drew back.
They did get Drew back, but he's not exactly what I would call a scorer. He's a good shooter. He can penetrate. They lost everybody. They lost the Martin brothers. They lost everybody.
And I believe Jordan Brown transferred.
Yeah, Jordan Brown did transfer.
The 5-star?
Yeah, they lost everybody.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
So this is a problem. Nevada Reno's not going to be very good. San Diego State's going to be okay. But Boise State's going to be okay. But San Jose State's awful.
Did Jordan Brown go to Arkansas?
I don't know the answer.
Did he
to that.
follow Muss?
I don't know. But the Air Force is not going to be very good. Wyoming's not going to be very good. So I think UNLV and T.J. Ottsberger in year one have an opportunity. I will also say this. When you are the highest paid coach in the Mountain West Conference, you need to produce immediately. So I hope he does do that. This can't be a rebuilding year. This has to be a year of, hey, let's compete. Let's win some games. Let's try to get into postseason play, whether that's the NIT, the NCAA tournament. Got to get into one of those this year. I think that is very, very important. But, hey, we appreciate David Jenkins taking the time to join us. Real great kid, and really looking forward to interviewing him on many more occasions, and look forward to this year and next year when he's eligible. Also want to thank Minister Stretch Sanders for coming into the show. We also actually learned that Stretch is also a neighbor of mine, which I was unaware of, so that's kind of cool. Stretch will be back in very soon. Also want to thank Rashid Noel for taking some time to join us as well. And, of course, former Democratic presidential candidate Seth Moulton, who took some time to join us as well. Wow, that was a loaded show today. If you missed any of it, check it out on Twitter at The Vegas Take. Also, our YouTube page, The Vegas Take, as well. So we're going to take a brief 21-hour break. We'll be back at you same time, same place tomorrow, folks. Hope everybody has a fantastic afternoon. Of course, Sean Hannity's coming up next. I know he's going to be covering everything when it comes to this Trump situation. Oh, I know he'll be covering the Bidens as well. So I could be sure, rest assured, he will be covering that. Sean Hannity coming up next year. Thanks for joining us, everybody, in The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAW.